Hello and welcome to video 4 for the Email Blast Sales per Dollar calculator. So this video is going to cover most of the features of the Pro version. So if I open it up here, one obvious, and I've pre-populated the data, so there are a number of differences here. The first one is there are a lot more rows here, so you can enter, there we went down to about row 200. It's about 180, 190 possible rows. And if you need more than that, we can certainly update the sheet. Just let us know. You'll see there's more columns as well. I'll go into that in more detail. But one of the main differences is that now the sheet names are fixed, so you can only have one set of analysis per workbook, and that's because we break out the analysis across a number of sheets. We also have, we don't enter the sales per date on this sheet now. We enter them on their own sheet, and I'll explain why in a second. So in terms of entering the data, we still have the book name here, so I can once again put in Wanderer's Escape. We have royalties per sale of advertised books. So again, if I put an X in there, it turns off the warnings for the profits there. And we also have total royalties per sale of the advertised book. Now this is working out for every sale of book one or even free download, how many royalties will you get from the whole series. So if you sell 100 books, or so have 103 downloads, and you know that 50 people will normally go and buy book 2 from that, then you can times the royalty per book 2 by 50%. So and then that will show you how much you get every time you sell a copy of book 1. You expect to get half of book 2's value, and that can then feed on through it. And again, we have tools that will calculate this for you. The advanced read-through calculator will do all that for you very simply and give you these final numbers that you can just plug into the sheet. And we can also now say what are your baseline sales per day. And yes, you've guessed it, we have a tool that will calculate that for you too. But this is just how many sales were you getting every day for this book, before how many downloads before you ran the ads. So if you, in this case, we've got 29. So if you've always had 29 sales a day, and after the ads you get 31 sales a day, well, you've only actually gained 2 sales from the ads. So you want to take base your downloads per dollar on that 2 and not on 31. Now, in terms of entering the data here, these parts are the same. You're still entering the site name, the cost, and the advert date. You're just not entering the downloads on that date. And you can see these are at yellow, which means that they're being calculated. And I would say, sorry, just going back to this here, be a little bit careful of what you put into this cell. These type of adverts, especially BookBub, don't tend to have as high a sell-through rate as your normal organic sales. So you might want to lowball that just to be on the safe side, so you're not overestimating how much money you might make. And in terms of the sales per date, if we go here, you can see what we're entering here is for each date how many sales were there, and then it works out how many that is over the baseline automatically. And the reason we're doing this is because this sheet does cope with having more than one advert on the same day, and how that works we'll show you in a second. And something else to note here is absolutely fine to enter 0 sales here. That does not cause any problems. The sheet will respect that. That's no problem at all, and especially if you're running ads spaced out, that may well happen. So we go back to the detailed analysis page here. You can see the sales per day, or the extra downloads per day, has been copied over. And in some cases, so for example here, we have 2 ads on the same date. One was $20 and one was $10. So we work out the allocation between the two by splitting them based on this ratio. So you can see here, this one has 1/3 of the total spend that day, which is $30. This one has 2/3, and you can see here 1/3 and 2/3 of the downloads, which were 99. Now, I have just noticed a slight bug on the sheets. This column here should be blue, not green, so I will make sure that's adjusted for the live version. The reason being, we can enter adjustments here. And as it says, use these with great care because they can really throw your numbers out. But in this case, I had a fussy librarian on the 30th of April, which generally does quite well. but I had a BookBub the day before, and I know that I have a lot of extra downloads this day after a BookBub. So in this case, I'm saying, well, out of the 4,000 for that day, I think about 3,500 were probably down to the Fussy Librarian the day before, and you can see that still leaves the Fussy Librarian with a very respectable downloads per day. But if I was to take that down to 0, you see 136.2. That's even better than BookBub, and that sounds unlikely. So in this case, I've adjusted it, and I've adjusted up the BookBub day. Generally speaking, you want these to balance out. The only time you would add an adjustment up with no down is if you had a few days afterwards with no ads. So these only take account of the ads on the day. So if I'd run that on the 29th of April for BookBub, and maybe 5 days later for the Fussy Librarian, then the numbers would be right back down again, and there would be a big lump of sales that hadn't been taken into account. So you can certainly use it, but just be very careful. And from that we get the final extra downloads from the ad. So here we've added up 3,500, and then you see your downloads per dollar based on this number, based on the split, and then your adjustments made to it. And from there we do the calculations. Now if I was to go back and make up here, say we got 33 cents from sales of book 1, then you now see you get your money, your value there. You'll notice that this one didn't change. The reason for that is this number here, your royalties per sale of advertised book. If you get money for book 1, that would be factored into this cell here as well. So it would be a part of that overall number. And these are your estimated royalties. So as I say, $27,000. BookBub's really good. I would love to get $27,000 for it. I think it would probably be getting around half of that would be a good result. So, I'm sorry, with the profit after the spending the ad, 26,500. That'd be a really good return. But I would say it's probably going to be somewhere closer to half that. So it might be that I need to adjust these numbers and treat these with care as possible projections. But again, if you look at the our other sheet, which gives works out the success of your promotions, it will track there. You can actually enter the real numbers and see what the real effects were. So that is almost it. The thing we add as well here, let's put that back to 33 cents. So again, we have the values here, estimated return on investment of book 1 sales, but we now also calculate that for the entire sales based on this number here, and you can see your ROI there as well. So that's it for this sheet, yes. And what I will go into in the next sheet is a couple of more detailed breakdowns, which we have here. You can see the two sheets here, ranked analysis and ranked analysis chart, but this is already a long video, so I want to split those into a second video.